Okay, hello and welcome to the High Achievers Lounge podcast. My name is Christina Scholand and I am your host. And today I am so excited to bring to you one of my favorite people on the planet. She is a good friend of mine named Nikki Gullahorn, and she's going to share with us one of the most fascinating things that I've ever come across and how it works and how it can improve our lives, our health, our success, how trapped emotions get in our way. We've got limiting beliefs. So we're going to go through all of those things today. And she is going to show us how she works with people to break free of those, to eliminate those, release the trapped emotions, eliminate the limiting beliefs, and move forward and hit some success in our lives. So without further ado, Nikki, welcome to
Yeah,
the podcast today. It's so good.
I feel honored to be on your podcast. We've known each other for several years now
I
in a
know.
previous business venture. And I'm just excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm so proud of you for kicking this thing off because I know that it has been a long time coming for this podcast. So I'm just ready to get into it and just kind of dive in. Um, I think before we go into, you know, the method or the modality, I think it'd be really cool to explain my story for all of your listeners and your viewers that are going to be watching this to kind of have an understanding of where this all came about for me. Because I think everybody has a different, we obviously all have different stories, right? But I grew up in a very religious background. And this type of thing isn't considered, or back then, probably wouldn't be considered um what's the word what's the word I'm trying to say.
Acceptable.
Yeah,
It's
acceptable.
more taboo.
Yeah, it's like woo woo, right? Or like
Yeah.
witchcraft.
Yeah.
And it's not that at all. But so for me, my this whole journey started for me actually whenever I had to move my dad in with me. He was suffering from alcoholism and addiction. He had been suffering with that and battling it my whole life. He would go in to treatment, come back out, work the program for a bit, and it just he could tell you, Christina, the the steps, the 12 steps. He could tell you what the book says, the big book, like the back of his hand, but it wasn't working for him. And I was so curious why. Here I am, I've got somebody, it's my dad who I know loves me so much, but there is something blocking him or something that's interjecting and preventing him from getting sober. Now, I'm not saying that what I do is the answer and the cure all to everything, especially when it comes to addiction, right? I think that those methods and the big book, the steps, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, like all of that stuff, I don't have anything against those methods, right? For me, though, if my dad can recite all of those things and it's still not working, that has something to do in here and here. Something wasn't clicking. So I kind of went on this rabbit hole of understanding trauma, right? Because you hear, well, this happens and that happens. They're just escaping trauma, or they're escaping something, an experience. It took me actually losing my dad. He died sober, which I'm proud of him for, but it took me losing him to dig even further. And I couldn't help but think like, damn, had I known then what I know now, could I have reverse engineered that and could I have saved him? And so now I'm on this mission to dig and dig and dig. And on that mission of just understanding trauma and what trapped emotions, what trauma does inside the body, as far as diseases, ailments, things like that, but also physically manifested symptoms. Are those two connected? Do they correlate? And on my path to discovery and just looking, I found a lot of answers. And I wound up on this a network called the Gaia Network. And I saw this guy, Dr. Nelson, pop up, and they were interviewing him. And he was talking about this thing that he's coined, the discover healing and the emotion code and the body code. And as soon as I heard him say that, I actually wrote it down, 90% of the physical pain that people experience is due to whole or in part of emotional baggage that they're carrying around with them.
Hmm.
And that, you know, after 35 years of him being in this holistic medical practice, that, you know, every single case that he has worked on has an underlying, with all of his clients, have an underlying emotional trauma or some type of energetic imbalance that correlates to whatever it is that they're in there to see him for, right? He's a chiropractor as well. So the moment that I heard that, I kind of took it as a sign from above, like, this is what I've been looking for. And I went through the certification processes. I got certified in both modalities. I'm going through the third certification now for belief code. And it's absolutely changed the way that I look at life, that I look at symptoms that pop up on myself. Um, all the way down to, you guys see this, if you're watching this podcast, you see the vision board behind me. It's like 7 feet long. If you're listening to the podcast, there's a vision board behind me that I created in 2017. I'm a coach and I help people create these vision boards and find out, what do you actually want in your life, right? That's besides the point. There's something so important, Christina, that's missing when people make these dream boards or these vision boards, but they don't seem to manifest the things in their life that they want. Emotional baggage, limiting beliefs, there legit are things inside of your body and your heart that are blocking you energetically from manifesting or receiving the things that you want in your life. And the moment that I unlock that, my clients and even on myself, the way the things start happening in your life are wild. It is like, if you didn't believe, I don't know, people don't believe it a lot of times because it just seems so far out and left field. Um, but you get it, you know, you and I have done
Oh
some
yeah.
work together too. So, but that's kind of my story and how I got started and really looking into all of this for myself. And then once I got a hold of it, it's like something in my soul just smacked me and there's no going back. Like, it's in me. Um, and seeing immediate results in people that have had years of question, like, why am I this way? Why can I not, you know, get better? Or why am I not healing? Well, I've got this weird pain in my stomach. I'm throwing up every morning and I don't know why. Doctors don't know why. It is insane, the little symptoms that are happening in people's bodies, that you just tap in with the method and you release these energies and the body immediately will acclimate and it just repairs itself. And then it's like people are healed. And I'm not saying that I'm healing people, the body is healing themselves. But it's wild. And I'm not obviously the only one. The program has, at this point, probably well over 12,000 practitioners using the modality, 80 plus countries. It's been around for a very long time. It's just, for me, in the last, 4 to 5 years has been something that I've kind of grabbed a hold of and it's changed my life. So that's kind of my story.
I think it's amazing because, yeah, I don't remember what got us talking about it. I feel like we were chatting one day and you had mentioned it. And, because not everybody is into too much of the woo woo. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. Like,
Did we just become best friends? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's that total meme. And then that takes you down a whole nother path because I do believe that our energies, they attract other similar energies. And when you're
Hmm.
on that same frequency, it like you start surrounding your people or yourself with people that you don't even realize. Then you
Yeah.
just think it's the norm because
Hmm.
it's the norm that like we've created, right? So
Hmm.
for those who this might be hard for them to grasp, explain what explain what a trapped emotion is and what it can do to our bodies.
Okay, that's a really good question. I think to answer that, let's go back to, I think the first thing is understanding and having a clear understanding or belief that everything is energy.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is made up of energy. If you were to look at your hand under a microscope, to the plain eye, it's a hand and it looks like a solid, right? But if you look at this hand under a microscope, all the way down, you see atoms, and inside of those atoms are subatomic particles. And you see inside of that 90+% energy in these atoms, right? And so I think the first thing everyone needs to understand is everything in this world is energy. The desk you're sitting at, this cup that I'm drinking some really good tea in, is energy. If you break this down, it is made of molecules and things that are energy. Some are more solid, some are more malleable, right? And it's the frequency that the energy is moving. So that's the first thing that we all need to know. The second thing that I think is important to know about this is, you know, have you guys ever, and just ask yourself this, have you ever felt like your shoulders just weigh a ton and that you just have a lot of emotional baggage on, like a backpack? Have you ever felt like that? I know I have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think there's a misconception that emotions are just feelings that we have, and they come and go based on the experiences in our lives or how well we process the emotions, right? But if everything is energy, then we also have to understand and agree that even our thoughts are energy, the beliefs are energy, the emotions that come from our thoughts are, in fact, energy. And with that, every experience that we have in life, all of these emotions that we feel carry a frequency of energy, right? Sometimes if the body doesn't fully process the frequency and the energy of the emotion, it can get lodged in the body. And when that happens, not all the time, but when a trapped emotion or an emotion gets lodged or trapped in the body, it's about the size of a clenched fist. So for you guys listening, just kind of put your fist out and look at it. Every single trapped emotion and the body is about the size of a clenched fist. Energetically, it's just this ball of energy. And what can happen inside the body, imagine if this negative energy, this emotion, is just vibing and doing its thing inside the body wherever it's located, it's a negative energy. It's a negative frequency. Over time, that it's like a tuning fork, right? If it's connected by the heart or by the kidney or whatever, over time, you can have symptoms that pop up of that associated organ because it's slowly bringing the frequency of that organ down to match pitch, right? So, is that making sense so far?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it does to
So,
me. I'm hoping that it does to,
hmm.
everybody who's watching, but I mean, absolutely it makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely can, um, it starts affecting everything in the body, you know? Can I give a couple of examples of stories from people from the book? I don't
Absolutely.
know. So for those of you, you can actually do this modality and research it on your own. You can go and buy the emotion code book. Christina has it on her desk. She can show you guys what it looks like. So you can go and buy that book. It's on Amazon too. I don't get any royalties or anything from that. I'm not an affiliate for it, but you can go on Amazon, you can buy it, and you can teach yourself how to do this. But um, I wrote down a couple for this podcast today that I wanted to share with you guys, and then I'm going to give you a few of my own. Um, there is something called a heart wall, and a heart wall is, have you guys ever said, I'm sure you have, I've built up a wall around my heart, right?
Hmm.
Like I don't want to love again. I don't want to get hurt. So that's an act, that's a real thing.
Hmm.
So everybody that's watching this, everyone listening to this, that's not just a figure of speech. Like that's a real thing. Our bodies do this to protect us on an energetic level. So quick story, you can read it in the book as well. There was a woman that found out that her husband was having an affair, and it broke her heart. And immediately after that, she had just determined and decided, like, it's not worth it. I'm going to protect myself. I'm never going to love again. I'm never going to let myself or allow myself to be vulnerable again. Subconscious starts pulling all of those emotions from the affair, even back emotions from childhood and whenever that resonate on the same frequency. They start pulling these emotions, the energy of the emotions, and they put a wall around the heart to protect your heart. With her, she came in to see Dr. Nelson, and her face was numb. Her whole left side of her body and arm was numb. So she thought she was having a heart attack in his office. And there was an emergency clinic next door. So, he made sure that the front desk had like on standby. They might need to call, an ambulance. But he tapped in, he used this modality and found a couple layers in a heart wall and found that she was blocked energetically and the frequency of her heart was off. So he released these trapped emotions and this trauma. Within seconds, she heard the feeling in her face came back, the feeling in her hands came back, and she was able to take a deep breath and realize, like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I had been whole. I thought I let all of that go. And the moment that those were released, he said that she went home, she felt great, came back a couple months later, had met, connected with her high school sweetheart, and they were so madly in love. Like,
Mhm.
that's the way that this works. And you'd be amazed. But so that's one story. Another story is there was an 11-year-old boy who his mother had been doing some work on him. And because she had the book, she wasn't certified in the modality, but bought the book and wanted to start working on her kiddo. He was starting to see big differences and such. And he goes over to his friend's house and he had learned the modality for himself, 11 years
Wow.
old. Goes to his friend's house and they would frequent like a community center, right? And there was a pool there that all the kids could swim in. His friend had a phobia of water, so he would never get into the water. The mom of the friend called the other mom and said, I don't know what your son has done, but my kid is in the water swimming with his friends. And he has never been able to do that because of his severe phobia of water. I just want you to know, like, your son did this. I need to know what he's doing. And so, from as young as 11 to, I mean, as old as you can think, I mean, people are using this modality to release these trapped energies, and it enables the body to reacclimate and balance. When the body is in a balanced state, it heals and repairs, and things can drastically happen like that. So I hope that answered your question. I got a little fired up there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are a lot, I mean, just especially with the woman with the heart wall, with the,
Mhm.
broken heart and putting up that wall around her heart, it shows you the kind of effects that these trapped emotions that we may have had happen in our childhood, or
Mhm.
a tragic event, some sort of trauma happens to us and we build up something in us, and
Mhm.
it can have a big effect on our health. Maybe you're exhausted, maybe you, like, all of the tension and all of that can, like, it does cause real health issues.
Mhm.
And so to be able to release those things, she's thinking that she's having a heart attack,
Right.
and it really wasn't a heart attack. She just had that.
Right. And Dr. Nelson said, I really do believe, because he has seen it for years in his own practice, that had they not found those heart wall emotions and cleared those, she may not even be alive today, because this all starts as just a little dis-ease in the body, right? You can just start to feel something different. Maybe a muscle that normally doesn't hurt just starts to hurt or ache. Those are signs from your body that something's not right. And, there's a lot of times that, now I'm not dogging Western medicine. I think that there's a place for all of it, right? But if you go to a doctor and you can't get over an upper respiratory infection, you've been on all of the antibiotics, you've done all the things, and you keep going back, and he just keeps giving you antibiotics, now your gut is probably not balanced. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. What if you could just ask your body, what is going on here? Like, is there something contributing that I can do today? Is there a trapped energy in my body contributing to my inability to fully repair and heal from this infection? You can muscle test and get a yes or a no from subconscious. If it's yes, there's something, then you use the method to pick it apart. There's thousands of different yes or no things you can ask. And the subconscious is going to guide you to exactly what's wrong. What if I told you that it might even be a couple of trapped emotions lodged in the lungs? Maybe there's a couple of trapped energies. There might even be something that's called a recovery interference energy. These are things that you can just release and the body will begin to heal itself. So it's it's incredible what the body is capable of doing. But yeah, so dis-ease will eventually turn to decay, right? So dis-ease is then disease, decay. It's just a progressive kind of series of events that happen if you don't get your emotions and actually feel the things you're going through. I think if there's any men on this podcast, you guys specifically, because what are men told, Christina? Be
Yeah,
tough. Don't show
exactly.
emotion.
Boys
Don't
don't
be a
cry.
wuss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the boys that don't cry and the ones that are supposed to be and try to be so strong later in life, they start having, I don't want to make medical claims, but there are direct correlations to certain types of diagnoses that correlate with trap trauma and specific emotions that are generated by your organs. So this isn't just woo-woo stuff. This is scientifically studied. There's clinical studies. There's tons of information that you guys can access online that prove this modality. Not even this modality, energy medicine, period.
Yeah. And I really feel like where we're at in our world right now, I think that people are, especially after the last, 4 years, people are starting to recognize that again, like, to your point of not trying to dog on Western medicine,
Mm-hmm.
but we have the ability to heal ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's been so much dependence on, pills and potions and all the things. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like people are starting to recognize that that's just a business. It's not healthcare, it's sick care, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
business, and they're the only
Mm-hmm.
way that they're going to make money is if you are sick. So if
Right.
you're running a good business, you want return customers. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you kind of have to think about those things. And I'm not into that kind. I'd much rather, I feel like God has put enough on our at our fingertips,
Yeah.
literally at our fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so much more natural healing now. People are turning more towards plant healing and plant medicine and that. And there's such an explosion in that. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this, vibrational and frequency healing is another big thing. This is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we had done a few sessions together, and the it's so fascinating to me because while I'm relatively new to the emotion code, I'm not new to energy, frequency, and all of the woo.
Yeah.
So it just is fun to be able to feel the energetic exchange, even though you're in Texas, I'm in Idaho, and
Right.
that connection is made and you feel it. It's amazing
Right.
to me. And like it's so funny because I remember there were a couple times you're like, well, what are you feeling right now? I'm like, well, my hairs are standing up and I'm tingly.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
mean, it's amazing to me. So I know that you talked about there's emotion code, body code, and belief code. So what is, I don't want to say the difference because I feel like they're all, they all flow together. So
Hmm.
what is body code and what is belief code?
So, well, the emotion code, we'll go back to that. The emotion code is just a method that's used to find and release trapped emotions in the body, only emotions.
Mhm.
And you'd be surprised again at how many things are happening in your life, from accepting love, from letting go of things that are holding you back. There's from goodness, just a ton of different things in your life. Are you receiving love? Are you enabled to give love? All of the things. Trapped emotions are a huge factor in that. So that's emotion code. The body code is really, really cool. This is the second certification. You have to get the first emotion code to kind of graduate into the second certification. The body code goes more into, okay, if we can use our beautiful and amazing subconscious mind, right? The subconscious mind is like a computer. It's a program in the mind that has every single memory. It knows everything about your life, everything about your body. And with the body code, we can find, okay, what's going on in my body? Do I have, maybe trapped heavy metals? It can identify heavy metals, toxins. Sometimes the different organs aren't firing and wiring together because there's something off in the brain. So we can find that in the body code. Misaligned bones, muscles that are out of place, like all the different things, tendons, all the way down to like a cellular level. The body code, you tap into subconscious and you can find all of the different things. Ask all the questions about your body that you want. For example, let's see. So I have a client who um, I'm not going to obviously share her full story or her name or anything, but she has been having seizures out of nowhere um, for years now. And none of her doctors know what it is. Nobody knows why. Mayo Clinic went, done tons of tests. Nobody knows what is going on, why. We tap in, and the direct question is in the body code, is there something that we can do in the body code that's contributing to these weird seizures that I'm having? Yes. Okay, let's dig in. Is it, an energy? You can search for any energies in the body. Yes, it's an energy. Okay, it just kind of guides you through. So the body code is more specific on the body. The emotion code is only addressing emotions that are stuck inside the body. The belief code this is the next certification I'm going through. It's all about the limited beliefs, the beliefs that we tell ourselves that are preventing us from moving forward. The beliefs, again, it's all energy. So um, that's like the triple threat. It's the trifecta that I'm really excited to utilize in my own practice. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I'm excited for you for getting that third certification. That one is, so I had a session and went back to, like, it was kind of like a hypnosis, and it
Hmm.
brings you back to a place where you first developed a limited belief.
Yeah.
And there were 2 points in my life that they were very specific things. Like I remember
Yep.
where I was at the grocery store with my mom. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I remember we were in the like the aisle where the toilet paper and paper towels and everything were. And then
Wow.
the other one, I remember being out on the playground. And so these things, there was something that transpired there that kept a limiting belief. It was a money block that made me,
Interesting.
yes. And so the release of it was the feeling of that release was, I didn't feel it right away, but the days afterward, and in fact, especially in the first couple of weeks of it,
Hmm.
I was like, when I realized when I realized the difference, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's amazing to me how free I feel, how much
Hmm.
more confident. And I already have like my self-worth and everything. I don't have a problem with that. However,
Hmm.
there was some sort of a something that held me back, thinking
Hmm.
that I, not that I wasn't worth it, but that I couldn't reach a certain level
Level.
of
Yeah.
success or income or whatever. And that once that released and I felt like, oh, absolutely, I'm there. And then you
Hmm.
feel that. So now it's inevitable of what is to come. That's how I truly feel that everybody can get to if they do this kind of inner work.
Yeah.
And especially like going back to what we were talking about before with where we're at in people are starting to move to a more natural self-healing
Hmm.
frequency and vibrational healing. Like people are really starting to turn toward that.
Yeah.
And I feel that's a huge step in our world, because especially a world that is so dominated by
Mm.
big pharma, and you know they want to like people who are experiencing depression, anxiety, those kinds of things. They give them a pill,
Yeah.
and then they give them more pills, and that pill causes something, so they give them another pill,
Yeah.
and then they don't feel emotions.
Hmm.
But who wants to go through life like
Numb.
that? Not
Yeah.
being able to experience true emotions. So
Right.
I think that the work that you're doing is so valuable. And,
Yeah.
I think it's just the beginning.
Well, it really is. And I appreciate you for saying that. It really is just the beginning. And I think that as a collective, now this is where I go off, but I think as a
Just go
collective, like
there.
our human, the human species, the human race, right? As a collective, as we raise our vibration and our frequency as a whole, there are a very large group of people that are awakening to this modality and to the truth of how our body heals itself, of what actually matters in life.
Mhm.
And I think that you're absolutely right. People are waking up to the reality. And I think more so, I think the amount of death because of the pandemic in the last 4 years, it wasn't a pretty thing at all. I lost family and friends myself, but through that process, we had to go through that as a human species and as I guess a culture, human beings anyways. We had to go through that and be lied to and like treated that way for us to wake up. It's like sometimes you just need to be shaken a little bit. And it was, even though it's a very difficult time and it was a very dark time for all of us, it was a time that gave us the ability to shine on the other end. Like you have to go through the darkness to find the light. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people are waking up to the truth. Um, so absolutely, it's amazing. And when you think about um, this modality itself, I think it was Albert Einstein that said it first, the way the future of medicine is in frequency. So he
Hmm.
said that way back when. And that's just quantum physics, you all. So it's again, it's nothing new, but if you're hearing about this for the first time, it's because this wave of knowledge is resurfacing because of what we've gone through, right? You look at Chinese medicine and all of these different modalities. There didn't used to be doctors. There didn't used to be prescriptions. How did people
Right.
heal themselves before all of that? They knew the internal, um, they knew what was going on inside. They knew the internal answer. And again, it's not just the body code, it's not just the emotion code. There's so many other modalities out there that are helping people heal. And so I'm just glad to be a little speck on the planet that has a little piece of that, right? So I'm just really excited about everything.
Oh, I am too. I feel like there's an older generation that they feel like they're supposed to have the doctors, they're supposed to have the medications, they're
Mhm.
supposed to have, the little packages with those Sunday,
Yep.
Monday, Tuesday, our
Yep.
grandparents had those. And so I feel that that is like they think that that's the norm and that's just how it is when you're old and when you da 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 da. But
Hmm.
I feel like then there's our generation. And I know that I'm older than you, but like my generation, I feel like we're sort of right in between. So
Hmm.
some of us are, like, oh, we can do this ourselves. I've got 5 acres where I'm at, and I can't even tell you how much I have out here that is considered weeds,
Hmm.
but it's all medicinal. Like
Yep.
I literally could go out there,
Yep.
pick stuff and sell it online.
Yep.
But then there's the younger generations that are coming up that this is going to be because of what we just experienced with the pandemic and all of the things to go along with it. They are more open to these things because this is going to be a little bit more of the norm.
Hmm.
And I love that there's going to be a transition. There's so many transitions that are going on right now,
Yeah.
all at the
There's
same
also been a
time.
lot of exposure. People
Yes,
have been exposed to truth, and you can
correct.
only go to your doctor so many times and not get the answers that you need. And so it's just putting a band-aid, putting a band-aid, putting a band-aid.
Right.
They call it medical practice for a reason,
Hmm.
and it's not doctors' faults either because they go in, nurses and doctors, practitioners, specialists, they go in and they learn from the books that were there before them. And those books were created from those masters before them. I think it was the Flexner report, I think in the 20s, where they realized, wait a second, I think Big Pharma was birthed from that time. And they warranted anything that was not Western medicine, witchcraft or woo-woo, and it was illegal to practice. So from that moment, everything started changing. And it was because of money. It was because of pushing this agenda on everyone. So it's taken a many time, a lot of years, a lot of time to come to a head and for people to realize truth, right? So um that's interesting, but you're right. They're waking up to reality. And, I think with the next administration coming in too, I don't want to get too political, but with the next administration coming in and making America healthy again, they're going to open a, a treasure chest of data and a treasure trove of information that's been concealed for a very, very long time.
Hmm.
And I think energy medicine is absolutely the way of the future. If you look at the med beds, look at red light therapy,
I was
all of
just
these
gonna
different
say red
light
red light
therapies.
therapy.
Yes. And even the infoceutical industry, this is all tying to frequency healing. Um,
You
ton
know
of
what I
stuff.
notice? You know what I so when we talk about the different generations, and there's the older generation that they were taught the news tell you get
Yes.
everything from the
Yeah.
news, and
Yeah.
you're told what to think. And then, we've got then Gen X, that's my generation, and you're not the boss of me. And
Right.
so, but we kind of like everybody just minding their business and going about their stuff. But then we might be skeptical and we might be questioning things. Then there's, the millennials that are coming up, and they're kind of like rebellious in a lot of ways. And then everything together was, I feel like there started to be this, what you were saying, the truth is coming out, and things are being it's just you're kind of everybody starts to think of on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're free thinkers and we think a different way, but now we have there's so much of it that we're
Mm-hmm.
free to free think.
Mm-hmm.
We're free to have this, and there's more of us, and there's so much backing it. There's so much information, data. There's the proof of the healing. You
Mm-hmm.
can't deny that. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
what Dr. Nelson was experience. The book is full of all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of stories.
Mm-hmm.
So when that kind of healing is taking place on such a massive
Mm-hmm.
scale,
Mm-hmm.
there can't be any denying it. I mean, people can deny it and they can take their meds and they can believe whatever, but I just feel there's a whole new wave and way of health that's
There
coming.
is.
I'm really excited. I'm glad that
Yeah.
we were chosen to be part of that movement.
I was just about to say, like, and to take it a step further, we chose to come back in this lifetime to be a
Mhm.
part of, I think, the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
And that's really freaking cool, if you ask me. Now, a lot of your listeners might be
Absolutely.
thinking, this girl is way far off. She is woo, she's wild. But that's what I believe. And
Yeah.
I think that brings your soul a little bit of empowerment and purpose when you
Mhm.
remember why you were here and why you're here. You remember who you are, and you remember what you're capable of as a human being with the soul and God inside of you. Like, it is amazing how fast your life can change. Um, Crazy. One other thing I wanted to share with you is I had a client the other day, and when we're talking generations, right? This generation, 19-year-old boy, um, feels unworthy, lack of confidence, depression, a lot of the same symptoms that that generation has. When
Mhm.
we look at what they've been exposed to the last 4 years, and we
Yeah.
look at the disconnect from society, right now you're being inside, you've got a quarantine, you can't, the only connection you have is with a cell phone in your face. Basically, you're not hanging with your friends, there's no connection. Even sports and things, kids and adults couldn't be active like they are a lot of times. So the insane things that started happening in people's bodies with him, with the depression thing, I found a lot in that session. But one of the interesting things that came up with um, depression was um, I'd have to go and look back through it, but it was really interesting. It was an actual trapped emotion of depression. And it took me back, again, what you said earlier with this modality. When you find a trapped energy, you will find the exact emotion or an emotion very similar to one that's lodged in the body. And you can go back to the moment in time that your body lodged that emotion so that the client has a little clarity and oftentimes finds closure, right? So we find these emotions, and there was a suicide in his life that he hadn't processed, obviously. And he'd been going for, so I think, a year and a half to 2 years, not sharing his emotion because he is an adult at this point, of 19-year-old man. He's growing into his manhood and he doesn't want to show weakness. He compressed the emotions. Um, he starts vaping, right? So all just finding these alternatives. And the other thing that came in the body code was um, contaminated candy with a lead contamination. So in his body, he had a heavy metal in his body, and it was contributing to the flavoring, the chemical flavoring that comes with vapes. So
What?
we found the chemical flavoring that is connected. And I didn't know he was vaping until I went over the results with him. And he's addicted to it. He can't get off the vape. When he does, he gets very sick. He goes into this downward spiral. So we did some work. I released the energy of the lead and the things in the body, but the physical symptom or the physical um, chemical is still active in the body. So that is something that he will need to do a heavy metal detox. He'll have to go and source that. Like you can't just release any physical things from the body. The body can release the energetic connection, and you can demand the body to, enlist your immune system and go and heal whatever you want it to with the power of your mind. That
Mhm.
sounds crazy, but it's true.
Right.
So, but with him, I see that in a lot of the younger generation. They think that they're stuck and they think that I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm this, I'm that. They don't understand that they just have these emotional compounds and this little backpack of energy and emotion they're carrying along with them. And I'm sad to say it, if they don't release the energy from those emotions and they just continue to prescribe these young people with medicine and depression, they're going to numb themselves. The ability to connect in social atmospheres and environments won't be the same. And they'll live almost their whole life through adulthood not understanding why they feel the way they feel. So
Right.
there definitely is a calling for practitioners and people that are working in energy medicine in that field. You even get into crystals. I mean, we should do another podcast because
Yeah.
the frequency that these crystals emit, and they even have these crystal beds that you lie in, and it's different light therapies that do different things, can target a specific area in the body. You couple that with biofeedback scans and all of the things. It's what we do at our retreats. We address
I am
on
going
a
to be
cellular
at one of
level.
your, I'm going to be at one of your retreats because
Come
I,
on.
it sounds so fascinating to me. And, man, I definitely will make my way there one of these days.
Well, come on. It's almost like it is a buy one, get one now through the end of the year. So if this podcast is up, before the end of the year, and if there's anybody watching this, and you can put it in the show notes or something, but
Okay.
we're doing, buy a retreat before the end of the year, and you can bring a friend, a spouse for free anytime in 2025.
Okay. And so, how can people find you?
Right now, my website's being redesigned. I think the best way to find me is on social. So you can just search me, Nikki Gullahorn, on social platforms. Um, I'm first and last name on all platforms. So if you just put it in maybe in the show notes or something,
Yeah,
how to spell my
I'll do
first
that.
and last name, you guys will find me there. And I'm excited to connect. Just send me a message and say I was on the podcast. I heard you. Like, I'd love to connect about whatever it is. And if you need help on where to get the book, if you've got questions, I'm an open book, you all. I just want to help other people heal and just help as many people as I can. Like, I'm on a mission, like a flat mission to just help as many people. So thank you so much, my goodness, for having me. This has been fun. I
No,
think we need
thank
to do
you.
another one though, because we could talk for hours and hours and hours, right?
Yeah, we absolutely could. We absolutely could. So yeah, we'll have to plan another one. And but thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for everything that you do, because I think that there is such a demand for it right now there, and it's only going to grow. And I think that,
Yeah.
again, we are extremely lucky to be here at this time and be part of this kind of a movement. So
Mhm.
thank you again. And until next time, thank you for listening to the High Achievers Lounge podcast, and we will see you again next week.
Bye, guys.